Step into the heart of a legendary clash where bravery meets chaos, the Battle of Little Bighorn. Through the eyes of Holy Rock, we journey back to a time when his own father stood on the threshold of destiny, hearing the thunderous approach of soldiers shatter the morning stillness. Feel the rush of adrenaline as Weasel Bear, a mighty Cheyenne warrior, ignites the fires of resistance, rallying his people against overwhelming odds. And prepare yourself for the powerful story of Drags the Rope, a young fighter whose heart pounds as he navigates the chaos of the battlefield, embodying the unyielding spirit and valor of his nation. These individual stories intertwine to form an unforgettable tapestry of heroism, sorrow, and survival. To immerse yourself in their world is to brace for an emotional experience that will leave you amazed and hungry for more. Before we begin, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel to help grow our community. This is more than just a recounting of events. It is a profound tribute to the indomitable spirit of those who stood guard over their land and their way of life. Get ready to feel every heartbeat, hear each bullet's whiz, and witness every crucial moment of true warrior spirit. During the fighting, my father was around 10 or 11 years old. His teepee was the furthest south down by the river. The other camps stretched out to the north, which was the direction Major Reno was ordered to attack. The family was just about to sit down to eat when my grandmother was getting ready to serve the soup. Suddenly, a rider came speeding into the camp, calling for all able warriors to get their horses and prepare to fight. Soldiers were coming. At that young age, my father's curiosity took over. He lost all interest in food, replaced by a surge of excitement. He dashed from the lodge and saw a line of cavalrymen up on the ridge. In that first look, he noticed one of them carrying something that was flapping in the breeze. His mother came outside and saw it too. She told him, "Son, go get that mare we have tied. Bring her down to the creek." So my father ran west toward where the horses were grazing. Most of their ponies were gathered there, both to the west and south of the village. His family had one mare that had a tiny bell around her neck, probably taken from a sheep. She was tied up so she wouldn't wander off, and all the other family horses stayed near her. He hurried over, loosened the leather strap, and wrapped it a few times around her nose and then once over her head. But she was a tall horse, what we Lakota call a sunkie. She looked like the kind of horse white men rode and had the same build. My father struggled to climb onto her back as the sounds of gunfire exploded around him. The crack of rifles filled the air and horses scattered in all directions, terrified by the noise. There was nothing nearby for my father to use as a boost to reach the mare's height. He even tried scrambling up her leg like a monkey might, but she wouldn't stand still. She began moving nervously because the fear was taking hold of her too. Just then, a herd of horses came stampeding past him. As they rushed by, the mare pulled herself free from his grip and galloped away with them. Left with no choice, he turned and ran back toward the village. When he reached the camp circle, everyone had disappeared. He rushed to his parents' teepee, only to find it empty. Remembering his mother's words to head for the river, he started running across the camp circle in that direction. He heard something behind him and turned to see a line of men, some kneeling and others standing, with their rifles aimed straight at him. But he didn't stop. He kept running. As he ran, he could hear bullets whizzing past like angry hornets swarming close to him. He spotted some low bushes nearby and threw himself into them for cover. Above him, it sounded like a fierce hailstorm as bullets rained down. They must have been shooting at him. That moment filled me with anger as a child. Why did they feel the need to do that? He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a warrior. This began shaping my feelings about what he endured, It was a natural wave of empathy and fury that planted a deep bitterness in me toward white people. For the warriors, it was different. They were protectors, so it made sense they would stand ready to fight and die if needed. But when battles turned against children or those unable to defend themselves like women or babies, that felt wrong. Even in the chaos of combat where emotions run high, soldiers should still show some humanity. If they see a woman running away, they shouldn't fire at her. But I suppose they followed their orders. General Sheridan used to warn new soldiers preparing for battles with Indians. Always remember that nits make lice, as if we were filthy pests that needed to be wiped out. Those words left a deep wound in me. I have never forgiven Philip Sheridan for saying them. The Army was on a mission of destruction because our people were too skilled at protecting themselves and were costing the government money. They were determined to take this land no matter the price. They probably assumed my father would grow into one of those lice, so they aimed to kill him too. But it simply wasn't his time to die. A storm of bullets passed all around him. Any one of them should have found its mark, yet not a single one did. He survived. By the time my father reached the river, many of the older people had already gathered there, along with women holding their babies. The young ones had been taught to remain quiet, even when suddenly frightened or startled. This was part of surviving among the Lakota. Enemy tribes and soldiers would sometimes attack our villages without warning or reason. Babies wrapped tightly in their cradle boards learned not to cry. They might make soft sounds, but they would fall silent right away when their mothers whispered, "Shh," or "Lek," "Ah, ah." The little ones would stop crying instantly and instead pay close attention. Children grew up understanding how to survive in dangerous times. My father found his mother crouched in the bushes with other women, children, elders, and those who were sick or hurt. They could hear horses thundering past, bullets cutting through the air, hooves pounding the ground, gunshots ringing out in bursts, and the shouts of men fighting up close. They knew something terrible was happening, but they could see very little because they had been placed there for safety. While my father stayed there with the women and old men, suddenly a warrior came riding up. It was his uncle, though he never told me his uncle's name. My father called out in Lakota, "Lekshi," he shouted desperately. "They are killing us. Our people are falling." His uncle heard him and quickly rode over. His uncle answered firmly, reached down, grabbed his arm, and pulled him up onto the horse. My father was ready to ride into battle when his mother grabbed hold of his leg tightly and would not let go. She had given birth to 2 children, him and a sister who died young, so now he was her only living child. She cried and begged him not to go, saying he was much too young for such danger. Seeing how upset she was, his uncle put him back down again. He often wondered what might have happened if his mother had not stopped him. Maybe he would have died fighting that day instead of living safely, wrapped in her love. His uncle told him that soldiers were trapped on a hill and getting ready to make one last attack. He wanted my father to become a man at only 10 or 11 years old, but sadly, my grandmother stepped in once more and took that chance away. When the fighting ended, some historians claimed the warriors celebrated with dancing, but my father said this was completely wrong. Many warriors died in that battle, and many more were hurt, and some women and children had also been killed during Reno's attack. From what my father remembered, when the warriors rode out to fight, they came down like a fierce storm and completely crushed Reno's men. They rushed through the trees where the cavalry's horses were hiding, but the warriors struck so fast that many soldiers missed getting on their horses or watched them run away in fear. Because of this, many soldiers were left on foot, and those who did manage to mount up had no time to form lines or set up any defense. Everyone was just trying to save themselves while the warriors had the advantage, fighting with everything they had to stay alive. His uncle told how many soldiers cried out for help from their friends who were now alone and in danger, while others dropped their weapons in the confusion and stood helpless, begging for aid from fellow soldiers who were just as desperate to escape death. The warriors rode right through them, quickly cutting them down without wasting bullets, since many of them did not have guns anyway. They succeeded pushing the rest of Reno's cavalry back against the river where some soldiers spurred their horses into the water below. My father remembered how high the bank was as the horses plunged down. Some got stuck in the mud and threw their riders off, while others swam across and made it to the other side. But reaching the far shore brought new problems, because the steep banks forced some soldiers to get off their horses and climb up using their hands. I hope this first-hand story gives you a new way of seeing the Battle of Little Bighorn and the Great Sioux War of 1876. Keep watching for more stories like this one. I plan to share more accounts from those who were there, so have a good day, and I will see you again soon.